The photos in my inbox weren't just blackmail. They were art. Professional quality. Taken from impossible angles. Someone with serious resources had been watching me for weeks. The final image made my heart stop completely. Alexander and me at a private dinner, his hand covering mine across the table. The angle made it look intimate. Romantic. Scandalous. Except we had never had dinner together. Ever. I had been home that night working on sketches. But the photo was perfect. Lighting, shadows, expressions. Someone had either followed us to a meeting that never happened or they had created the impossible. Digital manipulation had become the new weapon of choice in the fashion world. And I was about to become its next victim. I stared at the image for hours, analyzing every pixel. The restaurant was Alain Ducasse in Paris. The most expensive dining room in the city. The photo showed Alexander leaning forward, speaking intimately while I gazed at him with what looked like adoration. My dress was one I owned. His suit was his usual Armani. Everything was perfect except for one detail. The necklace I was wearing in the photo had been stolen from my apartment 3 weeks earlier. I had reported it to police. Filed insurance claims. How could I be wearing stolen jewelry to a dinner that never happened? I called my assistant Marie, the only person on my team I still trusted completely. Marie, I need you to check something for me. 3 weeks ago, Tuesday night, where was I? Tuesday, let me check your calendar. You were at the atelier until midnight. Working on the beading for the emerald gown. Gabriella and I both saw you leave. Are you certain? Absolutely. You ordered Thai food around 10 p.m. We ate together while you worked. Why? I sent her the photo. The silence on the other end stretched painfully. This is impossible, she finally said. You were never at this dinner. But this photo, it looks completely real. That's because it was meant to. Someone wants the world to think Alexander and I are having an affair. The question is why? The answer came within hours. A text message from an unknown number. The photos go public in 24 hours unless you withdraw from Fashion Week. Last chance. But I had spent the sleepless night making a different decision. Instead of backing down, I was going nuclear. Victoria Sterling's office occupied the top floor of a building that overlooked the Seine. Everything was white marble and gold fixtures. Art that museums coveted hung casually on walls. This was power made physical. She stood with her back to me, looking out at Paris below. When she spoke, her voice carried the authority of someone who had never been denied anything. Show me what they sent you. I handed over my phone. She studied each photo with the clinical detachment of a surgeon examining x-rays. When she reached the restaurant image, she paused. Impressive work. The lighting is particularly well done. Whoever created this has serious resources and serious skills. Created? You can tell it's fake. She turned from the window, her smile sharp as crystal. Darling, I've been in this business for 30 years. I know the difference between reality and theater. The question is whether anyone else will. She walked to her desk and pressed a button. Within seconds, a man in his 50s entered. Expensive suit, careful posture, eyes that missed nothing. Sophia, meet Marcus Webb. He handles delicate situations for discerning clients. Marcus nodded politely but said nothing. His presence felt like having a loaded weapon in the room. Marcus specializes in digital forensics. If these photos are fabricated, he'll prove it. If they're real. Victoria's smile turned predatory. Well, then we'll have different problems to solve. I handed Marcus my phone. He studied the images with professional intensity, zooming in on details, checking metadata, examining shadows and lighting angles. These are sophisticated fakes, he said after several minutes. Deep fake technology combined with traditional photo manipulation. Expensive work. We're talking about a budget in the hundreds of thousands. The relief was overwhelming. They were fake. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't losing my memory. Someone had spent serious money to frame me. Can you prove it in court? Victoria asked. With time and the right equipment, yes. But proving something is fake takes longer than people believe it's real. Once these images go public, the damage will be immediate and devastating. Victoria walked to her window again, thinking. Then we need to control the narrative before they can release it. How? By telling the truth first. On our terms. in our way. Within 3 hours, Victoria had arranged something impossible. An exclusive interview with Fashion Forward magazine, the industry's most influential publication. Not just any interview, but a cover story. With the editor-in-chief personally conducting the questioning. "Isabella will be fair," Victoria explained as we rode to the magazine's offices. "But she won't be gentle. She's going to ask about Alexander, about the plagiarism accusations, about everything. Be honest about what you can prove. Be careful about what you can't." Isabella Moreau was exactly as I remembered from that first salon. Elegant, intimidating, and absolutely ruthless. She conducted interviews like a surgeon performed operations. Precise, methodical, and potentially life-saving or fatal. We sat in her private office, surrounded by covers featuring the most famous faces in fashion. A photographer captured every moment, every expression, every gesture. "Let's begin with the obvious question," Isabella said. "Are you having an affair with your investor, Alexander Volkov?" The bluntness was breathtaking. But I was ready. No. Alexander Volkov is a business partner. Nothing more. We have never socialized outside of professional meetings. We have never dined together privately. Any suggestion otherwise is fabricated. Strong words. But there are photos. Photos can be manipulated. Technology exists to create any image someone wants to create. The question isn't whether fake photos exist. The question is why someone would spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to create them. Isabella leaned forward. "And what's your theory?" "That certain people in this industry are so threatened by new talent that they'll destroy careers rather than compete fairly. The plagiarism accusations were just the beginning. This is escalation. You're suggesting a conspiracy. I'm stating facts. Someone orchestrated the plagiarism scandal. Someone is now fabricating evidence of personal impropriety. Someone wants me destroyed professionally and personally." The photographer captured every word, every expression. This interview would either save my career or end it permanently. Who would have the resources and motivation for such elaborate sabotage? This was the moment. I could name names. Celeste Dubois. The fashion establishment that saw me as a threat. But accusations without absolute proof could backfire spectacularly. Anyone who benefits from my failure. Anyone who sees independent designers as threats to established power structures. Anyone who mistakes cruelty for strength. Isabella made notes on her tablet. And Alexander Volkov? What's his role in this conspiracy theory? That's what I'm trying to determine. Either he's a victim being used to manipulate me, or he's a willing participant in my destruction. The interview published within hours. Fashion Forward magazine's digital edition featured my photo on the cover with the headline, "Fighting Back, Sophia Chen speaks out against fashion's dirty war." The response was immediate and violent. My phone exploded with calls from reporters, supporters, and threats from unknown numbers. Social media became a battlefield. Team Sophia versus Team Fashion Establishment. But the most important response came from Alexander himself. He arrived at my atelier that evening without warning. No appointment. No courtesy call. Just appeared in my office like a storm cloud gathering. "You've made a serious mistake," he said without preamble. Have I? Which mistake was that? Defending myself against lies? Refusing to be destroyed quietly? You've accused me of orchestrating your downfall. That's both false and dangerous. I studied his face carefully. The controlled anger seemed genuine. But Alexander was a master manipulator. Genuine emotions were just another tool in his arsenal. Then explain the photos. Explain how images exist of events that never happened. I can't explain what I haven't seen. I showed him the restaurant photo on my phone. His reaction was immediate and unmistakable. Genuine shock. Complete bewilderment. For the first time since I'd known him, Alexander looked vulnerable. "This is impossible," he said, studying the image. "I've never been to Alain Ducasse with you. I've never been to Alain Ducasse with anyone in the past 6 months. Then how do you explain this?" "I can't." He looked up from the phone, his expression troubled. "But I know who can." Alexander's admission changed everything. If he wasn't behind the photos, then who was? And why frame us both? "There's something you need to know about my business arrangements," he said, settling into the chair across from my desk. "I don't work alone. I have silent partners." "What kind of partners?" "The kind who prefer anonymity. who make investments through shell companies and offshore accounts, who value discretion above everything else. My blood chilled. Are you talking about criminals? I'm talking about people who operate in gray areas. Legal gray areas. Moral gray areas. People who see fashion as just another commodity to be bought, sold, and manipulated. He pulled out his phone and showed me a series of financial documents. Bank transfers. Investment agreements. Corporate structures so complex they looked like labyrinths. 6 months ago, my primary investor demanded I expand operations. Acquire more designers. Build a larger portfolio. When I told him about your talent, he became very interested. Interested how? He wanted complete control. Not just of your current work, but of your future output. Your brand. Your image. Everything. The pieces were starting to fit together in a horrifying pattern. And when you couldn't deliver complete control, he decided to acquire it through other means. Scandal. Blackmail. Destruction and reconstruction under his terms. I felt sick. Who is he? Alexander's hesitation told me everything. This wasn't just business anymore. This was dangerous. His name is Viktor Petrov. Russian oligarch. Oil, gas, international investments. He collects things. Art, real estate, politicians. And now, apparently, fashion designers. Viktor Petrov. The name felt familiar. Where had I heard it before? Then I remembered. Katerina Petrov. The lead model from my fashion show. The one who had asked if I knew who I was. Katerina, I whispered. His daughter, Alexander confirmed. And your biggest advocate in this mess. She's been trying to protect you without her father knowing. Within an hour, Katerina appeared at my atelier. Without makeup, without her model armor, she looked younger. More human. More afraid. You spoke to Alexander, she said. It wasn't a question. Your father is trying to destroy my career. My father destroys everything he can't own. It's his nature. She walked to my window, looking out at Paris. But you're not just another acquisition to him. You're proof of concept. What do you mean? He believes he can manufacture fashion stars. Take unknowns, give them resources, control their success, own their output. You were supposed to be his prototype. The cold calculation was breathtaking. I wasn't just an investment. I was an experiment. And when I didn't cooperate, he decided to break you down completely, then rebuild you as he wanted. More compliant. More grateful. More owned. Katerina turned from the window, her expression fierce. But he underestimated you. You fought back instead of breaking. That's made you dangerous to him. Dangerous how? Because other designers might follow your example. Might refuse to be owned. Might choose independence over security. She pulled out her phone and showed me a series of photos. Other young designers. Other promising careers. All now working for companies owned by her father's network. Some chose to join willingly after seeing what happened to those who refused. Others were persuaded through various means. Blackmail. Among other methods. My father has many tools for persuasion. I studied the photos of designers who had surrendered their independence. They looked successful, wealthy, and utterly hollow. Why are you helping me? Because I'm tired of watching my father destroy beautiful things. And because you remind me of who I used to be before I learned that fighting him was impossible. Her words carried the weight of personal defeat. But also something else. Hope, maybe. Or vicarious rebellion. What happens now? Now he escalates. The affair photos were just testing your reaction. Seeing how you'd respond to pressure. Since you fought back instead of submitting, he'll move to more serious measures. More serious how? Criminal allegations. Financial impropriety. Things that can't be dismissed as industry gossip. My world tilted sideways. This wasn't just about fashion anymore. This was about freedom. About the right to exist independently in a world where powerful men collected human beings like art. The tabloids hit newsstands at dawn. Every major publication in Europe carried the story. Fashion's forbidden affair screamed from covers featuring the manipulated restaurant photo. The articles were masterfully written. Suggestive without being libelous. They painted me as an ambitious social climber who had seduced my older, married investor. Alexander was portrayed as a successful businessman led astray by a younger woman's charms. The details were devastatingly specific. Intimate dinners at exclusive restaurants. Private trips to his country estate. Secret meetings in luxury hotels. All fabricated, but all plausible enough to seem credible. By noon, my phone was ringing constantly. Reporters, gossip bloggers, scandal-hungry media outlets all wanted comments, confirmations, denials. The fashion industry, which had been watching my plagiarism scandal with professional interest, was now consuming my personal destruction as entertainment. Marie fielded calls while I read every article, studied every photo, analyzed every claim. The attention to detail was extraordinary. Someone had spent months creating this narrative. "There are photographers outside," Marie said, hanging up from another interview request. "Lots of them." I looked out my window. The street below was crowded with paparazzi, reporters, and curious onlookers. My private atelier had become a media circus. "We can't leave," I said. "Not without running a gauntlet." "Maybe that's the point. Maybe they want you trapped." She was right. This wasn't just scandal. This was siege warfare. Keep me isolated, unable to work, unable to defend myself effectively. But isolation worked both ways. They couldn't reach me either. Victoria Sterling arrived through the building's service entrance, avoiding the media circus out front. She carried a briefcase and wore an expression that could have frozen champagne. "Well," she said, surveying the chaos from my window, "they certainly know how to make a statement. They're destroying me systematically. They're trying to. There's a difference." She opened her briefcase and pulled out a folder thick with documents. "Marcus has been busy. Digital forensic analysis of every photo, every story, every claim." I opened the folder. Technical reports, metadata analysis, timeline reconstructions. It was overwhelming but also hopeful. What did he find? That whoever is orchestrating this has made mistakes. Small ones, but mistakes nonetheless. The restaurant photo was taken on a Tuesday. Alain Ducasse is closed on Tuesdays. The lighting in several images is wrong for the claimed times of day. Most importantly, your phone's GPS data proves you were nowhere near these alleged meeting locations. Evidence. Real, provable evidence of fabrication. But would anyone care about technical details when the scandal was so entertaining? "We need to be strategic about how we release this information," Victoria continued. "Drop it all at once and it gets lost in the noise. Parcel it out carefully and we control the narrative." "What do you suggest?" "We give them a bigger story. Something so shocking that it makes your alleged affair look like minor gossip." She pulled out another document. Financial records. Corporate filings. Investment disclosures. Viktor Petrov doesn't just collect designers. He owns judges, politicians, media outlets. The network behind your destruction extends far beyond fashion. This is about power on a scale most people can't imagine. The scope was breathtaking. My personal scandal was just one small part of a larger system of control and manipulation. "Are you suggesting we expose his entire operation?" "I'm suggesting we make ourselves too dangerous to destroy quietly. Sometimes the best defense is mutually assured destruction." As evening fell, a new photo appeared online. Not on major news sites, but on fashion blogs and social media. It showed Alexander and me at what appeared to be an intimate dinner, but this photo was different. The lighting was softer. The angle more suggestive. My expression looked vulnerable, almost loving. But I recognized the location immediately. It was my own atelier. The meeting table where we discussed business. Someone had manipulated the lighting, adjusted the angles, changed the context entirely. The photo went viral within hours. #SophiaAffair trending globally. Comments ranged from supportive to vicious. Some people defended me as a victim of manipulation. Others condemned me as a homewrecker and social climber. But buried in the social media storm were comments that made my blood run cold. People claiming to have seen us together at locations I'd never visited. Witnesses to meetings that had never happened. Either these people were paid to lie, or the conspiracy was deeper than I'd imagined. Late that night, as I sat in my besieged atelier reading the endless stream of comments and accusations, a new message appeared on my phone. This time it wasn't a threat. It was an invitation. "Tomorrow, 3 p.m., Café de la Paix. Come alone. It's time you learned the truth about who's really behind this. And why they'll never stop until they own you completely. A friend who knows." Café de la Paix sat in the heart of Paris like a monument to old-world elegance. Gold fixtures, marble columns, mirrors that had reflected a century of secrets. The perfect place for a clandestine meeting. I arrived early, choosing a corner table with clear views of all entrances. The cafe was busy enough to provide cover, but not so crowded that conversations couldn't be private. At exactly 3 p.m., Thomas Beaumont appeared. Not unexpected, but not entirely welcome either. Our history was complicated, and his recent warnings had proven accurate but hadn't prevented disaster. "You look tired," he said, settling into the chair across from me. "I look besieged. There's a difference." He ordered coffee for both of us, playing the role of casual acquaintance in case anyone was watching. But his expression was serious. "The situation is worse than you know," he said quietly. "The affair scandal is just the opening move. They're preparing something that will destroy more than your reputation. Criminal charges, financial crimes, tax evasion, money laundering through your business accounts. They've been moving money through your corporate structure without your knowledge." My coffee cup rattled against its saucer. My hands were shaking. "That's impossible. I control all my accounts." "Do you? Think carefully about every contract you've signed, every authorization you've given Alexander. He's had months to establish the paper trail they need." The implications were staggering. Not just career destruction, but prison. Complete annihilation of everything I'd built and everything I could ever build. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because despite everything, I still believe you deserve to know what you're facing. And because..." He hesitated. "Because I have feelings for you that complicate everything." The confession hung between us like unexploded ordnance. Personal feelings in the middle of a war for survival. "Thomas, I can't. I know you can't trust anyone right now. But I need you to know that not everyone in this industry wants to see you destroyed." He slid a business card across the table. Simple black type on cream paper. "If you decide to run, call this number. New identity, new life, somewhere they can't reach you. And if I decide to fight? Then you need to accept that you might lose everything, including your freedom." That evening, Alexander called. His voice was strained, desperate in a way I'd never heard before. "We need to meet. Tonight. There's something you need to see before tomorrow's headlines." "I'm not meeting you anywhere. Everything gets twisted, photographed, manipulated. Then I'm coming to you. Don't let anyone else in. Don't answer any calls. What I have to show you changes everything." He arrived after midnight, looking haggard and frightened. Gone was the composed businessman. This was someone running from something bigger than scandal. "They're moving faster than I anticipated," he said, pulling out a laptop. "Look at this." The screen showed financial records. My business accounts. Money flowing in and out in patterns that made no sense. Large deposits followed immediately by transfers to offshore accounts. "This is impossible," I said. "I never authorized these transactions." "You didn't have to. The contracts you signed gave me discretionary authority over business expenses. I've been moving money to protect it from seizure. But they've been recording every transaction." "Recording for what?" "For the criminal charges they're filing tomorrow. Money laundering, tax evasion, conspiracy to commit fraud. The evidence looks overwhelming." I stared at the screen, watching my financial destruction play out in real time. Every transaction could be interpreted as criminal behavior. Every movement of money looked suspicious when viewed through the right lens. "You set me up." "No." His voice was firm, desperate. "I was trying to protect both of us. But they've twisted everything. Made legitimate business look criminal." "Who's they, Alexander? Give me names. Give me proof." He closed the laptop and looked at me with something that might have been regret. "Victor Petrov. Celeste Dubois. A network of people who see talented individuals as resources to be acquired or eliminated. They offered me a choice. Deliver you willingly or watch us both burn. And you chose?" "I chose to try to save what I could. But I underestimated their reach. Their patience. Their ruthlessness." A sound from outside made us both freeze. Car doors slamming. Heavy footsteps on stairs. "They're here," Alexander whispered. Through my window, I could see unmarked cars. Men in suits. The methodical efficiency of law enforcement. "This is it," I said. "This is how they finish me." Alexander grabbed my shoulders. "There's still time. The service elevator. The parking garage. I have a car waiting. Running makes me look guilty. Staying makes you a prisoner." The sound of footsteps was getting closer. Deliberate. Inevitable. I looked around my atelier one last time. The space where I'd created my dreams. Where I'd built something beautiful from nothing. Where I'd learned that success could be more dangerous than failure. The choice was simple and impossible. Run and lose everything I'd built. Stay and lose everything I could ever build. The footsteps stopped outside my door. Someone knocked. 3 sharp raps. "Police. Open up." I looked at Alexander one last time. His face was pale, desperate, genuinely frightened. Whether he was my savior or my destroyer, he was offering me a choice. Freedom meant running. Justice meant staying and fighting. But in a system rigged against me, was there really a difference? The knocking came again, louder, more insistent. I thought about my grandmother's words. Beautiful things come from broken places. Maybe it was time to see just how broken I could become, and just how beautiful I could make my revenge. I walked to the door and turned the locks, one by one, each click echoing in the silence like a countdown. When they arrested me, they would get exactly what they expected. A frightened young designer overwhelmed by forces beyond her control. What they wouldn't get was the truth. Not yet. Because sometimes the best way to win a war is to let your enemies think they've already won. The door opened, and my real education began. Next episode preview. The arrest was just the beginning. While the world celebrated my downfall, I was learning the rules of a game I never knew I was playing. Prison changes people. But it doesn't have to break them. Sometimes it just makes them more dangerous. And when Fashion Week arrives, they're about to discover that I've been planning my comeback from behind bars. They wanted to own me. Instead, they created their worst nightmare. A designer with nothing left to lose and everything to prove. The Empire strikes back.